Welcome to Data Security Over Coffee. That's DSOC to those in the know.
Where the only thing more dangerous than a zero-day exploit is Chad from accounting clicking on every single email attachment.
From password post-its hidden under keyboards
to that one guy who keeps using password 123 despite our 47 security memos. We're here to talk about the threats you never knew you should be terrified of.
I'm Dr. Joe Harford.
And I'm Angie. Have you tried turning it off and on again? Singer Keating.
Bringing you the latest in cybersecurity nightmares and risk management drama.
Because somewhere out there, a hacker's trying to get into your company's data.
And Karen from HR just clicked on another free iPhone pop-up. This is Data Security Over Coffee, DSOC, where every episode is a penetration test you didn't ask for. Whoa. I have to say, from the very beginning, Angie, now compared to that intro video, you look so much better. You really do. I mean, no, you really, you're first of all, you look like a wet raccoon in the intro video because your hair stuck to your head. Now you're like lively and you're very, just polished. And see, Tony, I can say all these things because I'm not down the hallway from her.
Do you realize what you just did?
What did I just do?
I hope you have a budget to reshoot that video.
Which video is that?
The intro
video? Oh, we do.
Intro.
We do. We're going to reshoot the video next year, so I get to do this for another 6 months.
I didn't even notice any of that.
What's that?
I didn't notice any of that. You guys are being overcritical. I mean, it was beautiful.
Tony, I just do this because I can. You're a guest, so you're going to be polite. You're polite anyway, and a really nice guy, and a very ethical business person. But Angie and I just terrorize each other, that's part of what we do.
Tony, you should know that you've had enough dinners with us to know that it's just jab at each other all the time.
Yep, 25 years, and
that's what makes you guys so powerful, so great.
Yep.
Is that
aren't you celebrating 30 this year?
We're 31 this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So before we go down the rabbit hole, Tony Perrotta, thank you very much for being our guest. So who are you? What do you do? And why are you so cool? That's what that's what the 133 people want to know. Why are you so cool? You're up.
Well, I don't know why I'm so cool, but what do? I'm a founder of a company called GreenTech. We're based out of Cambridge, Ontario. And we specialize in the IT Asset Disposal and electronics recycling. I founded the company about 31 years ago today. We were very different then than we are today, of course. We have about 110 employees, and we operate out of close to 100,000 square feet. We do from soup to nuts, right? We have our own logistical team that goes out on site that does a lot of the collection, disposal, destruction on site if you want, asset recovery. And then we have our processing plant that does the end of life processing, also does the refurbishment, repair, and data destruction and recycling. So we have like a full circle type of solution. We have our certifications. We have the R2V3 certification. That's more for the very specific to electronics refurbishing and recycling. And even that, we have all levels. We have the refurbishment and the recycling certification. We also have the NAID AAA certification for data erasure and for for physical destruction. So we and both for on-site and off-site destruction. We're now working on our ISO 27001 certification. We should have that in place by October of this year. That's what we're aiming to have, that certification in place by then.
And you've been one of Reclamere's preferred vendors for years now. We absolutely love working with you guys.
Same here. We love working with you guys. We have a very good working relationship. Things are going well in my view. I'm sure they're probably going well in your view. And thank you for having me here today. I really appreciate being here as a host. And yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that I appreciate most about working with you is that so just to kind of describe the relationship a little bit, as an IT asset management company ourselves that is in a cyber first posture, security first posture, we need vendors to help us with residual waste. And so that is why we use your company, because of all of the industry certifications that you have, our vetting of you, and that you take security as seriously as we do. We know that no vendor is perfect. And so when we send residual material to you, we know that with your R2 certifications, your NAID AAA, and soon to have your ISO 27000, that if one of our techs happens to miss something, that it's going to be properly destroyed. You're going to report it back to us in our documentation. And it just helps me sleep at night. I look at you as a secondary, well, actually probably tertiary, because we have so much quality control in our own organization. I look at you as our safety net.
Thank you. And you know what? That's what we want to be. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that we bring that level of security and comfort to your organization, knowing that, when you're dealing with GreenTech, the risks are pretty well managed, right? Mm-hmm. And I find that I'm more of a high level, big picture, visionary type of guy. I don't really run the operations. I have a great operations team. We have 2 people just focused on compliance. Mm-hmm. One on the health and safety, environmental, another one specifically just on cyber and security and physical security. So we know what it's like. And from my perspective, I could tell you that you have to build that in the culture of the organization. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to say it and say, this is what we want to be, this is what we want to do, but you have to build it into the culture. Yeah. And the way we do it is we have every 3 months, we have what we call a town hall. We gather the entire organization, plant person, forklift driver, drivers. We get together and we review where we're at, the goals we've set and where we're at, both from a scorecard, like numbers, but also from a safety perspective, from a security perspective. If we have any incidences that, they're reported then, and and we talk about them at that time. So I feel that once you've done 3 or 4 of these, you're on the right path now. They know that this is very serious and that you're looking at it all the time.
Well, the other thing I really appreciate about you is that even though we didn't know you 31 years ago, I was a student at Penn State in electrical engineering. And I think Joe 31 years ago was probably running HR at a manufacturing company in Mount Union. You started the same way we did. You've done every job in your company. And I don't know the story of you and Betty. I would actually love to know the story of how you and Betty met. But your wife, Betty, is very instrumental in your operation and IT. So if she wasn't with you 31 years ago doing the same stuff of driving trucks and destroying hard drives and wrecking forklifts like me and Joe, she probably wasn't far behind, I would assume.
Yeah, that's true. She was actually my first employee. I hired her and she was so great. I had to marry her. What can I say?
And just
a couple weeks ago that I came up to Niagara Falls with my wife to celebrate the 20th anniversary of our first date. And I'd said this to Angie. In driving north, actually drove by our very first customer, which was Zippo Manufacturing, the cigarette lighter manufacturer. Yeah. And the reason why I bring it up is because 25, almost 26 years ago, when we went to that plant in Bradford, the real challenge for them right then and there was, hey, we just have a bunch of equipment and we don't need it anymore, and it's in the way, and we just need to get it removed. And so today, unfortunately, sometimes that's still the mentality. And I'm wondering from your perspective, because you mentioned cybersecurity already, why or what can we share with people that are trying to make that decision around ITAM, ITAD, to make sure that they understand that this surplus equipment and associated destruction of data is really a risk management and cybersecurity issue, not just an inconvenience of equipment being in your way?
Yeah, we see that all the time. We saw it 30 years ago. We still see it today. And, they have a pile of stuff. They want to get rid of it. Oh, we're not worried about it. Just do what you want with it, kind of thing. That mentality. And I think that's a little risky, right? Because data, it could be found on any device. Even though it's old, that data is still there. It's old data, new data. You know what I mean? You're still responsible. If you look at what's happening in Ontario and in Canada and in the United States too, and a lot of the states, there's a lot of new legislation that has been passed, new laws on data privacy and security, both at the state level, in Congress. They're going to be passing a bill in Congress. Here in Canada, it's the same thing. We have the federal government that's passing new legislation on the privacy side, on data privacy. You have every province that's either passed or in the process of passing stricter data security legislation. So, if you're a business, if I'm a business and I'm getting rid of old equipment, I better be careful on what I'm doing here, because I could be held liable. Right here in Canada, if you dispose of a piece of equipment and there's data there and someone recovers that data and it's being used, you could pretty well be sued by every person that's been affected by that data breach, right? And we just had a big one here in Canada. Staples was selling refurbished devices and got invested by the Information Privacy Commissioner, and they found that over 40% of the devices that they were reselling in the marketplace still contained some type of data on them.
This was Staples?
This was Staples, yes. Yeah.
So Staples was reselling used IT equipment.
Correct.
With data on it.
Correct. Allegedly.
Oh my gosh.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, to the best of our knowledge and what you have read.
I'll send you a link to the article.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, guess who just popped in? Margaret Meyer. Hello, Margaret. She says, hello, Tony. Hello.
Hi,
Angie.
Margaret. How are you?
No, but that's fine. That's fine, Margaret. That's okay. Okay. So here's a real live question for you. You ready? This is for Angie and Tony.
Sure.
So Margaret Meyer, obviously, she's in the Southeast. She's in Florida. She has a mobile shredding company, and she would like to know, which I think really applies to anybody that is a nationwide service provider, how can GreenTech and Reclamere help their customers?
Well, that's what we do, right? Is we help. Yeah, I mean, there's help in what and what factor and what fashion, right? So we're helping them on the data security side, making sure that when we do get this equipment, where there is no data left on it, that we're either scrubbing it, wiping it, using licensed software. We're not using free, or we're not doing factory resets, which is more risky. We also have documented process. So when we do a wipe, we have a document that says this is certified wipe. There's no data, nothing's been recoverable. No data has been recoverable on the devices. And I think, and if that doesn't work and that fails, then we have to physically take them and shred them and destroy them, so that nothing is, there's no risk, nothing is left open to risk.
I think the thing that we've always struggled with our fellow iSigma members, certified NAID AAA members, is that we struggled with a model of how to help them in a way where the logistics costs make sense. And there are a couple ways to kind of skin that cat. Many of the mobile shredding folks or the plant-based folks tend to have clients that are on the smaller side. They're servicing doctors' offices, they're serving veterinary practices, they're serving dentists' offices, law firms. And so they're not turning out the big volumes of equipment like the clients that Reclamere and Tony and GreenTech deal with directly. And so, you know, a couple things that Joe and I have tried to do over the years is we've tried to build a model that would incentivize them to collect material, you know, destroy the information that they're comfortable with. If your team is comfortable pulling hard drives and shredding them on site, that's fine. But your team might not know the first thing about how to clear networking gear or make sure that networking gear is fine. And so one of those ways is, you know, we can provide secure carts on site, either at your client facility or at your facility to accumulate that material, and then ultimately have us or GreenTech get that equipment in volume where the logistics make sense. The other thing is, if your client is big enough, doing direct referrals. I know at Reclamere, I can't speak for GreenTech, but you know, we're happy to pay referral commission to folks who say, listen, this is a really important client of mine. They're one of my biggest clients, and they want electronics recycling. They want IT asset management services. If I don't do it, they're going to go look at one of the big guys, like one of the publicly traded companies, and they're going to do it all and potentially take the paper from me as well. And so we do direct referrals in those cases. And that way you protect your client relationship. We don't shred paper. We will never shred paper. We're happy to sign non-competes. And that way with direct referral relationships, we can then help you keep that client happy and maintain your client relationship without fear that your client's going to be poached. How do you do that, Tony, with the iSigma members? Have you found a way to kind of skin that cat for them?
You know, we work with organizations like Reclamere, where they're providing services, and we become a downstream. You know, we recover a lot of value out of this material. You know, the critical minerals, the parts, components, harvesting is what we do at GreenTech, and then the recovery and recycling of, you know, the circuit boards have gold, silver, copper, aluminum. All those critical minerals is really been fueling our business. So there is a lot of value to this material, even after you've pulled the hard drive or the media and destroyed it. So I think that's we're good there. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to be able to go and service one of your clients in the United States unless they create, you know, they have some type of volume. And in fact, we use the iSigma certified members to do work for us in the States. You know, when we have a project, we'll reach out to someone, whoever we know that's closer to them, that can provide the services. They have the background and checked employees, and we know that, you know, we feel we have that level of comfort knowing that they could provide NAID AAA certified collection and destruction.
I think one of the things that member associations often forget is even if Reclamere can't help them with their ITAM or ITAD solution because the volume is too low, or there's a logistics issue or what have you, there's another part of the relationship that we have with them that really is important, and that is, what are they doing about their own cybersecurity preparedness? And that's a place, I think, where many organizations that are watching today, that are part of iSigma and other trade associations, really kind of forget about, and that's third-party vendor risk. Margaret is very well aware of what I'm talking about. We've been having this conversation for the last 2 years. Members of ARMA understand it, et cetera, and so forth. The reality is that these service providers do present some level of risk to their clients. And what we've tried to do, I know that Angie's been having this conversation for well over a decade, is to get them to understand that they have to begin somewhere with some kind of preparedness. They have to do something to assess their own environment, to understand, maybe it's only a snapshot in time, but what level of risk do they themselves as the service provider hold, that they have the opportunity that they can pass that risk on. Because at the end of the day, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tony, GreenTech is not just providing an environmentally compliant solution. You are providing a solution that has a wraparound for information security, cybersecurity, risk management, etc. We're not just talking about old equipment. At the end of the day, sure, you have material that shows up in a landfill. You have material that falls out of a truck. You have material that shows up on the news. Sure, it's going to be part of the news cycle. It's a problem. You have information that gets out on the open market through whatever means because you didn't work with a qualified vendor. That's going to cause you a lot more aggravation and financial concern than necessarily you lost some monitors in a landfill. And so I think that that's what people really have to be aware of is we're not just getting rid of old junk anymore. 30 years later, we're talking about information security and risk. This is a board level conversation. This is not just about the facilities guys got to get rid of 5,000 monitors. No, this is an organizational risk element that people have to be aware of. Like, this is serious stuff. And so I think that, the other thing that both our organizations bring to iSigma and others is just increased education and awareness of what that risk looks like.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. I won't even get into the environmental because there's a whole other level of risk there that we need to look at.
Mm-hmm.
With lithium-ion batteries and laptops and tablets and mobile phones, those kind of things, that brings a whole other level of risk on the environmental side. But just on the data security, even if I thought about this the other day. We had a risk assessment a couple of weeks ago, and we were going through we go through audits all the time. And I thought, well, yeah, sure, we're doing background checked employee. A friend of mine, this is a long story, I don't want to make it too long, but a friend of mine holding an IT company. And this is going back about 20 years ago. And he was telling me a story about how they were vetted. They had to get all of their employees background checked. But sure enough, they had one of their employees, which was background checked, tried to pull a heist while they were away after hours. So they basically created some type of fire in the plant. Yeah, it's really a crazy story. He was telling me the story and I couldn't believe it. And then it got me thinking, it's like, you know what? We have employees and we're doing background checks and we're doing all this stuff. Well, what's to stop them from, when they're doing a pickup, even though our trucks are GPS tracked and all that, right? What's to stop them to stop at one of their friends' house and say, hey, here's 5 or 10 laptops, see what you can get for these on a Facebook Marketplace or whatever, And so that got me thinking, wow, we got to really now start getting our customers to buy in the chain of custody, not just to protect and to have 2-factor authentication and put all the controls in place before we even do a pickup. Make sure that those laptops or whatever devices you have either have 2-factor authentication, encryption, data encryption for sure. Like I logged into my laptop this morning and it wouldn't let me in unless I went to my phone and I got my watch guard and it gave me a code and I had to enter that code and then I could go into my laptop, right? So the point being here is that now you got to educate the customers to say, make sure you have all these controls in place before we pick up. Make sure you give us a count of what we're picking up, or else we can't secure the chain of custody. We can't tell you we picked up 20 laptops, 30 laptops. If you give it to me, I'm using laptops as an example, but if you give it to me in a mixed fashion with printers and keyboards and mice, and you don't know what you have, then you really don't have chain of custody, right? Because it comes to GreenTech. Yes, the facility is secure. Yes, it's going to go in a secure place. But we counted 5 laptops. Maybe you shipped 7. Maybe you thought you shipped 3, but we got 7. You know what I mean? All that becomes a variable. And that's what I'm getting at, is that now we have to take one step closer to the customer and start educating them on how they can be more secure. Yes, use the secure containers. Make sure you know what's in there. When the driver shows up, give us a list of what's there, or have the driver take an inventory so we know exactly what we're transporting. And when it gets to our facility, you receive that card and you break the seal, I guess, and you record the seal. No one touched it. No one opened it. You make sure all these things are happening along the way so that, you get what you picked up. Basically, they said you picked up 20, 30 devices, 100 devices. You receive them, there's 100 devices, they're all accounted for, they're there. And now you can secure that chain of custody.
Well, the other thing is that now we have to go back and re-educate all over again, because we're in another one of those cycles of the 4-letter word that starts with F, free. Thanks to AI.
Whoa,
you know,
you almost went over the edge. Thank you.
Over your 31 years, our 25 years, we go through these cycles of free. And free happens because these companies pop up that go, oh my gosh, you know, when we started our company, we thought we were going to make all of our money on all the gold that was in the circuit boards, and we wouldn't have to charge anybody for anything. And guess what? It doesn't work that way. It didn't work that way 25 years ago when there was even less risk. It most definitely doesn't work today. So all of these companies that are popping up and going to this free model are out there. We're competing against with our insurance, with our industry certifications, with our certified techs that are handling the material, with GPS trucks and background checked employees. All of that has a cost. And there's never been a time where you could run a legitimate business of ITAM and do it where everything on the back end would pay for all of the things you need in order to do it right. There never has been, there never will be. And so it gets frustrating, you know, about every 5 or 6 years, whether it's some new technology. Right now, it's being driven by AI. Oh, I can pull all this memory and all these processors out, and I can sell all this stuff, and I can go do all these services for free. It's really frustrating, but it's just, you know, the same cycle over and over in this industry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have the same thing in Canada. We have a lot of people, a lot of companies going out there picking up for free, you know, saying that, you know, you're generating. There's even charitable organizations where, you know, we're competing with, where they're picking up and, you know, not invoicing anybody. They get quite a, you know, they resell everything out the back door. Basically, that's how they're making it free. You know, it all boils down to risk and reputation, and you know, I know, you know, even when I'm shopping around and I see something is, you know, I'm looking at something and I'm saying, well, I looked at this item, I want quality. I don't want to just buy the cheapest thing out there, right? Because I know what cheap is like, right? I know what free is like. So I think that that's something where I will say this though, there is a lot of value in this material. Not all material, right? Now, if you know, if the customer tells you I've got, you know, 10th generation laptops that I'm disposing of, because we just dispose of our laptops every year or every other year or whatever it is, then you know there's going to be a lot of value return. But is it free? I mean, we just went through this RFP right now with a large district school board, you know, and they were saying, well, tell us, you know, how we get a free no charge pickups, basically, right? And our response is like, well, you're not going to get a no charge pickup from GreenTech. You're going to see exactly what we charge, and you're going to see exactly what we recover. And in there, through that mix, we're betting that you're going to end up on top. Because knowing the assets you have, and knowing that all the other school boards we deal with that are your size have the same typical type of assets, we know you're going to end up on top, right? But is it free? If that's what you want to call free, call it free. I don't think it's free. I think we're very transparent. So you see what the charges are, and then you see what the recovery is, basically, right?
Yeah. Tony, I think one of the things I found in 25 years is that those customers that understand the value of what it is that we're providing to them are the ones that have been our banking, financial services, and state clients for well over 2 decades. They've stayed because they know what the value is. There's consistency, there's security, the documentation works for them, etc. Those people that are out kicking the tires and looking for free, I can tell you that, we learned this idea many years ago called next. If you want to kick the tires, and in our sales discovery call, you even remotely sound like you're looking for the cheapest solution, then we're gonna graciously bow out, and we're not even going to go down that pathway with you. Like, it's just not worth it. 5 years ago, Angie and I had a bit of an argument. Not that we really argue a great deal, but we had a little bit of an argument around this thing called SOC. And so, 5 years later, and I'm going to ask Angie to tell the story, it is, to me, one of the greatest testaments that an ITAD, ITAM solution provider can have when they talk about really being able to walk the walk around security and what that means. It is not inexpensive. It is not easy to accomplish. It is an ongoing annual expense, and as well as an annual exercise on the organization itself. And so it is for sure. And we know from the market that Reclamere is one of very few service providers across the United States in our industry that has that credential. That's a big deal for us.
Yeah, I mean, I am, I'll always be proud of the work that we did with NAID, now the National Association for Information Destruction, now ISIGMA, and their NAID AAA certified program. I'll always be proud of that. If you're NAID AAA certified, the controls that you follow are based on what we at Reclamere wrote 25 years ago. And I'll always be proud of that. But we needed certification, especially for our cybersecurity services, but it's proved to be really beneficial to us in IT asset management as well. The only people that can issue SOC 2 audit reports are certified public accountants. That's it. And there is not just the guy who does your taxes. In order to do SOC 2 auditing as a CPA or CPA firm, your work has to go through peer review. Now, are there shoddy SOC 2 auditors out there? Most definitely. Are there SOC 2 factories out there? Most definitely. But my point is that we needed something that had a little more teeth to it, because we work so much with healthcare and so much with financial services. And SOC 2, especially SOC 2 Type 2, has instant recognition with the people that sign the check that pays us, the people that sign the contract that pick us as a vendor. And so it's really helped in the sales process. Last year, and it's expensive. Joe is right. And I am fond of spending the money that his sales team goes out and earns on a daily basis. But I want to spend it on things that make us better. And SOC 2 Type 2 has most definitely made us better. The other thing we did that I think has made us better is we became part of the BDO Business Resource Network. BDO, fifth largest accounting firm in the world. They have an incredibly deep vetting process to become one of their BRNs. And so Joe has made tremendous inroads now in working with accounting firms all over the country, as well as BDO, and then turning around and helping our sales team cross-sell, whether it's ITAM with cybersecurity or cybersecurity with ITAM. And those have been some of the things we've done that have given us kind of a real leg up on our competition, but also just made us better. So and I think ISO 27000 is probably the reason. Those are probably all the reasons you're doing that as well, because that is really tough to get as well.
So Tony, let's say that you're in a situation where you've got one of these school districts you're talking about. Let's say that you've got a large healthcare system that you're looking at, a financial institution, and a government entity. Those are the four that would be approaching GreenTech to say, listen, we want to work with you. not from a sales perspective, but operationally, when these executive leaders are making a decision, and obviously you can give them all your credentials, but what do you want them to be thinking about and considering when they get ready to choose that service provider? Like, what is it that they really need to put convenience aside, put pricing aside, but what are the real risk management elements that they need to be considering when they get ready to look for a service provider such as yourself?
Well, one thing's for sure, in order to even, at the government level, because here a lot of the hospitals and the and school districts are all pretty well quasi-government run, right? Government
Yep.
funded, I would say. So in order to even be able to provide services there, you need to be vetted through certain organizations. Like we have OECM, we have Supply Ontario. Those are the organizations that vet vendors, for the public sector. And you need to have a privacy impact assessment. Like if you don't have that already done, you can't even bid, or you can't even go after the business, right? And they'll ask for it. So they want to make sure that your organization's done the privacy risk assessments, that you can provide the document, you can show the gaps, and that you're working on the gaps, whatever they are. That was a big thing. Remember, Joe, I was talking to you about almost a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
We had to have that in place. If we didn't have that in place, but they also went as far out as asking us to do privacy impact assessments for the school districts. And that's where I said, well, wait a minute, we're not qualified to do that, right? And that's why I was talking to you, Joe, see if you guys would be interested in doing that for the school districts. But just to answer your question, I would say that's the very minimum. They're starting to realize, even government organizations are starting to realize that it's one thing to have physical security. It's another thing to have cybersecurity. But, do you have a whole risk assessment framework around managing that security? And it all boils down to that risk assessment, right? You do the risk assessment, and then from there you build your processes, your procedures, you put your management systems in place to be able to manage those risks. But the foundation has always been that risk assessment. Whether it's health and safety, whether it's environmental, whether it's security, whether it's cyber, it all boils down to that. I hope I answered your question.
No, you did. You answered my question. I just want to, so for Angie, the question becomes whether it's BDO or it's leading HPA or it's PACB, trade associations that we're very well entrenched in for a number of years.
Pennsylvania Association of Community Bankers. I know how fond you are of your acronyms.
Tony, did you sense the snark? Like, could you feel that through the wire in any way whatsoever? It's interesting because I don't know if I can do this or not. There may be a way for me to mute her. I don't know. But anyway, I digress. What do you want people, meaning senior executives, board members, etc., what do you want them to be concerned about or thinking about when it comes to this whole idea of selecting an ITAM or an ITAD service provider? What do you want them to focus on? What do you want them to be concerned about?
Yeah, I think first and foremost would be like reputation. And, we really value our reputation. We've built it over the last 30 years, and we want to make sure that they understand how important that is. Certifications, making sure you have the proper certifications and the track record. When you have a clean track record and you've had 0 data breaches and 0 violations, environmental, whatever it may be, over the last 30 years, I think that speaks for itself, right? And for me, I feel like certifications is it's a baseline that you just can't consider another service provider without having those proper, whether it's NAAA, R2V3, or the SOC 2, ISO 27001. Basically, those are critical. So, the board, I find like when you're dealing with the boards, they look at, they're high level people, and they're like, oh, we got to make sure we follow this security. Nothing leaves without information's got to get destroyed, and they're very general that way. What does that mean? Information's got to be destroyed, right? Where it starts to fall apart is in the process. So the policies are there. You're always going to find the policies, and the board members, they put the policies in place, and then the management team, they make sure that they're following those policies and they put the processes in place. And it's really the management people I find that you have to work with, because they're saying, oh, everything needs to be destroyed. Well, what does that mean? Does destruction, like data destruction and wiping, does that work? Or does destruction mean physical destruction? That's where I find that they need destruction to us and destruction to them mean two different things.
Right. I agree.
It's all about appetite for risk.
Yeah.
We have one client that they're a global company. We do all of their domestic work here in the US, and they're a reinsurer. They hold unbelievably valuable, sensitive, confidential information. Every single thing that comes into this building from them comes in on secure carts. It is destroyed completely. We may not resell it or refurbish it in any way. That's their appetite for risk. And it probably makes a whole lot of sense for the type of information that they handle, for the types of clients that they not only insure, but reinsure. And so our appetite for risk here at Reclamere comes down to what can we control. We're not perfect. We have had in 25 years security incidents, but every single incident never rose to the level of a breach, because we had security controls in place that we were able to go back and reconstruct the incident, get to root cause, and prove definitively that there was no breach. Or in the situation like you described, where a client says, hey, we sent you 57 laptops, but you only have 55 on our certificate of destruction. We have the video footage to show every single laptop and go back through video footage and count every single one as it's going through the processes here at this company to say, no, we can definitively show you by video that you only sent us 55. The same with serial numbers. Hey, we have these laptops or we have these desktops that the serial numbers you put on, or the asset tags you put on the certificate of destruction, don't match what we have. Okay, well, how do you collect asset numbers? Well, we have interns that, go through and put them in Excel, hand typing them. Okay, well, every single thing that comes in here goes through barcode readers. So we eliminate the human error. And so it's those security controls. And I know oftentimes when people are going through industry certifications and audits where there's such a heavy emphasis on security controls, you think, this is so expensive. This is so time consuming. This is such a pain. It's those security controls that you have in place that you can then turn around and improve. They're the things that, as business owners, they're the things that save our butt. And those are the reasons why our liability, our professional liability insurance year after year continues to either in our cyber professional errors and omissions insurance has gone down each year with our SOC 2, moving to SOC, then moving to type 2, and our downstream data for our data destruction, that very specific errors and omissions, has either stayed the same or had minor increases. It just makes good business sense to have good security controls and in place.
So, Tony, is there anything that you want to share as we get ready to wrap up data security over coffee that you want people to be aware of, either about GreenTech or the whole idea of vetting your service provider and things they should be thinking about as they go through the remainder of the year?
Yeah, I just want to say, from a high level, these are things that you have to really build in as a business owner. You really have to build that culture. And that's what it boils down to. Even what Angie was describing, it's something that you guys have built into your culture, your philosophy, the way you want to operate your business. And if you take that mindset where, data security is priority number one, I think that's where, the organization starts to realize what we're working towards and what we need to get done at a high level, of course, right? And then, at the management level, you have your operating processes or procedures that you need to put in place. Someone needs to own that process, from an operations perspective, is someone needs to own the process of how you receive the material, how you're picking it up, how you're handling it, what you're doing with it. Those are all processes you need to have in place to make sure that everybody follows that process. And there is no risk, or the risks are being managed very, very well.
Angie, any last
words? At the end of the day, as an organizer, when I look at Reclamere and I look at companies like GreenTech, at the end of the day, we're like an insurance company. For me, I feel like the biggest value we bring to the customer is that we're like an extension of their company, right? They have a problem, and the problem they have is that as they're refreshing this IT equipment, stuff starts to pile up. They used to do it themselves. They used to be able to do it themselves. They would take all this equipment, power it up, wipe it down, put it for sale on GovBids or these websites, sell it, make money. Yeah, I'm telling you, they were doing it. And, just last year was probably one of the last school districts we had that came to us and had 3 years worth of material. They were just piling it up, and old schools that weren't being used anymore, they were locking it up and piling it up in there because they went through COVID and they didn't have the staff or the expertise. You need the staff. I mean, no one has like IT people just sitting around or interns just sitting around waiting for this stuff that's come out of use to power it up, to wipe it down, have all the records, put it for sale, collect the money, sell it, move it. That's a whole other business unit, right? So when you look at all the steps involved and you look at how complex the equipment is today and how much data it holds, if you can't do that on an efficient scale, it's really costing you a lot more to use your internal staff, your internal IT people to do all this work, right? So do it yourself is something I believe it's going to become something of the past. They used to do it themselves. Now they're looking more and more for organizations like Reclamere, to do it for them because they don't have the expertise. They can't power up 1,000 devices at a time or 300 at a time. I remember going and see this government contract we got years ago. They had piles of stuff in a warehouse piling up, and they had like 3 or 4 people taking a hard drive at a time, putting it in a machine, like maybe 3 or 4 at a time. When I saw that, I was scratching my head thinking, wow, no wonder you guys keep increasing our taxes, right? Because you're so inefficient at what you're doing. And that's what I feel like we bring the most amount of value is that we do it efficiently. We do it securely. They don't have to worry. We're like an extension of them, right?
Right.
Is that we can manage this for them and do it efficiently. And securely, of course, right?
I should hope so.
Yeah.
Angie, any last words of wisdom?
No.
Tony, this is June 30th, 2026 at 9:48 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and she has nothing more to say. Wow. By the way, I have to show you this. This is going to drive her completely, totally insane. Go ahead and talk, Angie. No, she's not going to because I can now mute her.
My fingers.
Oh, I love it. It's AI. AI did that to her hands. So, Tony, listen, three things, right? Number one, thank you. Thank you for not only being on Data Security Over Coffee, but truly being a friend before a vendor and a business partner, but just seriously about being a friend. Number two, we can't wait to see you. I promise you that I will bring my little sister to Canada, and we're going to have a great time and spend time with you, you and your family and your team. And the third thing is I wish you and your family a phenomenal second half to 2026 since we get ready to start tomorrow.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I look forward
Tony,
to having you here.
Tony, please give your brilliant, beautiful daughter my regards. Having dinner with her at the last conference was just such a joy. You and Betty should just be unbelievably proud of her. She is a real testament to the two of you. She's just a wonderful person.
We are. You know what? Thank you. We're blessed to have her, and we're happy. And she's learning. You know, she's doing really well. She's traveling quite a bit for us. She's going to conferences and she's learning and she's liking it, which is good.
Very good.
Yeah.
I will give her your regards.
We're going to drop out into the green room and then we'll say goodbye.